we've gone round and round in circles after our politicians who have never looked at the constitutional relationship between Scotland and England. They've never looked at what happened at the treaty, what didn't happen at the treaty, and it's unlikely that they're going to get behind us very fast. But the way this has to go is we will not. You don't go to the burglar and say, do you mind admitting that you've been robbing me blind for the past 30, 40, in this case, 100 years or whatever? You go outside. And what we've been saying to people is there are two organizations. Now, the paper doesn't set out by any means the whole of international law on this matter. But what is very clear is that a sovereign territorial nation has exclusive and permanent rights to its own natural resources. And that's international law to which the UK government, a member of the UN Security Council, is signed up. So this is incredibly embarrassing. If they could have got rid of all this old law, they would have done. If they could have written a codified constitution so it was all taken care of, they would have done. But the attempt would have exposed the constitutional relationship between Scotland and England. So they couldn't risk that. So what we need to do is we need to go outside the colonial authority. We need to go to an international court. Two organizations can get standing with the UN that would allow them to bring a petition to the International Court of Justice for an advisory ruling. One of those is a government. Now, the Scottish Parliament is not a government, it's the executive arm of Westminster. The other is a liberation movement. So my message to people in Scotland that are kind of looking at this and it's a lot to take on, is you've been robbed, you've been defrauded, it's a criminal act, we can prove it. If you want to take back what belongs to you, if you want to help us restore Scotland's wealth, restore what belongs to Scotland, then get involved. Sign up at liberation.scot. The website is constantly under attack and people have hell's own job getting in sometimes, but just keep going. Because when we reach a big enough number, a respectable number, we will apply for standing as a liberation movement with the UN. And that's what this group is about, steering committee for that. We will have people directly represented from the movement. No politician is going to be able to do this. And it's exciting and it's scary. It's us. We can do this. And we're the only movement that can do this, no matter what people say. No petition is going to do it. No march is going to do it. No protest is going to do it. And no devolved government is going to do it. But we can. And in the process, we can wake up the people of Scotland, all the undecideds, all the ones that don't know how they would feel about an independent Scotland. How are they going to feel when they know that we own all of this? That we can have a sovereign wealth fund tomorrow once we get once we get this straightened out. That we can look after our own. That Scotland can go from being a country where we are worrying about our vulnerable, our poor, our elderly, where ordinary people are hurting because they can't afford these ridiculous prices for the energy they own. They own it by law. Sorry, I get a bit excited about that. We can do something about it, but we have to stop waiting for our leaders to be smart enough, to be brave enough, to be bold enough. So every Scot who thinks it would be a good idea to have back what we're entitled to and to be able to come out of this horrific crisis that has been created for us by a colonial administration just needs to get online and sign up to liberation.scot. And our politicians, we really need to send them a very clear message. We've been following you for decades, and you've gone round and round in circles. Now we're going to have, we'll have a plebiscite that will give us a mandate to demand another Section 30. If you're sick of that, then maybe it's time you got behind the people. And there's a warning here. No country has ever achieved self-determination through its politicians and the political machinery put in by the colonial establishment. None. The only way any country has achieved self-determination has been through a liberation movement. If you don't believe me, go and look at your history. Recent and right back to the beginning of the last century. No country ever got self-determination by saying please to the colonial administration. It was always a liberation movement. And almost always, as we know from the Estonia story, the politicians have not caught up with the people. Ireland, it took the politicians 3 years from the Dublin Proclamation to get behind the people. And in those countries where there has been a liberation movement, that movement has turned into the political party that swept the board.
Yeah.
That doesn't have to happen. But if you're not paying attention to world history and you're not looking at the pattern and you're pretending that you can stay in charge and have people going round and round in circles indefinitely while you pick up your fat salaries, then you're in for a very rude awakening. Because when people in Scotland understand what has really been done to them, what they're entitled to, and that we can go right around Westminster for justice and to take back what belongs to us, who do you think they're going to back? And who do you think they're going to want to follow? Their own movement or the people that have led them round in circles? What's going to happen? If they don't wake up fast, they're going to find that the liberation movement, when it really explodes, is going to turn into the party that sweeps them out.
Yeah.
I don't want to see that happen, but that is what has happened historically. And it's about time our politicians woke up and smelled the coffee.